Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. So what I'm going to do here today is show you how to change the battery in a Panasonic ES-LT71 wet dry shaver. So I've had this sucker for I don't know how many years now, and the battery on it finally died. So instead of buying a whole new one, I'm just going to go ahead and replace it. And this is the battery that I've got. I will post a link for it down below. So let's go ahead and get started on removing this. So in order to remove this, you are going to need a Phillips head screwdriver, and you're going to need a very small one. If you've got one designed for watch repair or one designed for working on electronics, then you should be good to go. If you don't, it might be a bit more difficult for you to remove these screws because they are very, very small. So to get started, you got one screw here to remove. So let's go ahead and remove that. Once that's removed, just push this forward and it slides off. And then you go ahead and this piece, you would just basically pop off from the sides. There it goes. And now you've got 2, 4, 6, 8 screws. These 6 are going to be exactly the same screws. These 2 are different, so be aware of that. And also take note, when you're putting it back together again, there already is a gap here. So when you're putting it back together, don't try to make it so tight thinking you have to make the gap disappear, because it's not going to happen, and you may end up just stripping all of these instead if you try to do it too tight. So be aware of that, because these is all plastic. As you can see, this is a different type of screw than those, so keep that away. Try to arrange it in however manner that you need to in order to remember what order it goes into. I've got mine set up so it's basically in this kind of an order. Okay, so now that's taken off. Go ahead and pop this piece off. And be careful, some of these models, since this is a wireless charging here, I do have cables hooked up to it, so you got to be careful and keep an eye at this piece so you don't lose it, because it will fall off. And here's the battery for it. As you can see, the positive is on the bottom, negative is on the top. Just go ahead and pull the battery out. Very careful. Like I said, positive was on the bottom and the negative is on the top. Now here's my replacement one. Now I am lucky enough that mine is actually labeled positive, negative, and it has these little extrusions to it. I have seen some that were marked as compatible for this one, and it didn't have these little piece extruding from the sides. Instead it had flaps. If you end up getting that, you'll have to flip the flap over and basically kind of roll it over itself so it sticks out kind of like a spring, and you'd end up doing that on both sides to give us some kind of pressure so that it can still, so that it would go up against these metal brackets here is basically what you would end up doing. But if you can, try to get one that's designed properly like this is. And again, mine is lucky enough. I have seen some that weren't labeled positive and negative. This luckily is. If yours isn't labeled, you can get a little battery checker here. This is a real cheap one, and the connections are actually really bad. But if you have a good one, you can basically try to find out if you have it the correct direction. You should get yourself a little good mark, or at least something. See how it says good? And that's positive to positive. If it was the wrong direction, no matter what I do, it always stays on bad. There is no good option if you got one of these styles. Okay, so another way to determine which is the positive and negative of a battery is by using a multimeter. So what you want to go ahead and do is get your multimeter out, set it to volts. Right now mine is set to auto mode, which I've noticed sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. Some of them will have a AC DC option on here. that you have to select first. If you need to select it, go ahead and select it. I'm going to try doing auto mode first and see what happens. I already know it's not going to work because it doesn't always work. And actually it looks like it's set on AC mode right now. Let me go ahead and just select it. Let me go ahead and change it. Like I said, it's on AC mode. So now it is on DC mode. Okay, now I've got it set to DC mode at the moment. Now to find out if it is on positive and negative, like I said, I already know what this one is. This is positive, this is negative. So let me go ahead and test this out, and you should see this is a 3.6 volt battery. Touching the two together, you can see it's coming out, or at least let me use banana clips on one side and I'll just hold it on the other. So you can see here it is coming up at 3.8 volts. It is set to DC because it's the battery. Now, this is correct because this is the positive and this is the negative. So let's go ahead and swap that around. So now I've got the black on positive and the red's going to be touching the negative. So now you see it's still coming at 3.8 volts, but underneath the DC symbol, there's a negative. The reason why that negative is there is because it's backwards. So by swapping back around, putting this back on positive, that negative bar will go away. Now we'll do it, switch it around again. Put the black back on negative where it belongs. And then we'll go ahead and put the red to positive. And there goes back to 3.8 volts, and there's no negative sign. All you see is just the DC symbol. And that is how you can tell which side is positive and which side is negative on a battery that is not labeled using the multimeter. So let's go ahead and continue reassembly of this now. Now that we know which is positive and which is negative, and as I mentioned before, the positive goes on the bottom for this one. So I'm going to go ahead and slide and push these in. All right, those are in nice and tight. Go ahead and push this on next. Okay. Okay, that seems to be on tight. And then we'll go ahead and put the screws back on. Put it back on the reverse order that you took them out, or in any other order that you so desire. All right, now that I got those 8 screws back on, go ahead and put this back on next. Okay, after that, slide this one back in. Replace your last screw. All right, and after that, you're done. Let's see if it came with a charge, which it should have been. All right, and that is it. So I'm going to go ahead and charge this up and see how well this battery is. I have seen some complaints about people saying that the battery was delivered bad or not chargeable. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on the charger and see how well it goes. See if it charges properly or not, and hopefully all is well. So this was how to replace the battery on a Panasonic ES-LT71 electric shaver, as well as how to determine what the positive and negative side is on a battery using both a regular battery checker as well as a multimeter. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. And y'all guys have a great day out there, and y'all stay safe.